What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here. The Premier League is back this weekend. We have got Everton away up at Goodison, our second trip up to Merseyside in the space of a week. I've got Matty here with me. Welcome to the channel, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Big game this weekend for both teams.
Very big game.
Could be a bit of a relegation six-pointer. You know, we're only 2 points above you. I think we've both had a bit of a shocking start to the season.
Yeah.
What's gone on with Everton? Like, tell me, what's the problems?
Well, classic Everton. They like to build you up right to the point where you think you're fine. They're going to get out of your hole, and then they just shut you straight back down again. I think it's been a bit of a problem, really solidifying performances. I think I read a stat the other day, and I think every time we've gone behind in a game, we've never won under Marco Silva after going behind, which is quite dreadful when you think about it. So yeah, it's definitely not been the start that we wanted. After making some really promising signings, I think with Iwobi and Andre Gomez coming back permanently, we're just trying to find some form now, and we have been seeing a bit of form, but it's not been great.
I spoke to an Everton fan channel a couple of days ago, and they were kind of feeling that Marco Silva's only got a couple games left, and you know, Marco Silva's probably going to be the next Premier League manager to get the sack. What do you feel about that?
They're probably not wrong, to be honest with you. I think the thing with Marco Silva is that he seems to be at the point where he's about to get sacked, and then he just scrambles a win and then manages to keep himself going.
Well, let's hope that's not this week.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping it is this weekend, but I mean, look, it is the thing. We've fallen into being a little bit of a sacking club in the last sort of 5 years, which is never what we wanted Everton to be. You know, we had David Moyes for a good 12 years, I think it was, and we all really did have love for him, and then he left in the manner that he did, and then tried to take the players off us, which, you know, created a little bit of bitterness. But you look at the people who've come through. Roberto Martinez, we thought we had it back with him. We thought the School of Science was on its way back, and then it just wasn't after the first year, after an outstanding first year, and then it all went to pot. Ronald Koeman, again, we all get excited because there's this global legend coming to the club, and then again he builds you up and lets you down. I think the biggest one there where you could see it was when we signed Rooney, and everyone was so happy that he was back. Myself as a boyhood fan, obviously, I'm thinking, oh my God, he's back, we've got him, and it's all going to start going well again. And then Sam Allardyce comes in and pushes him out of the club. Sam Allardyce, like, you have to understand, like, as an Everton fan, you never ever ever want to see Sam Allardyce become your manager. Like, that was the lowest of low for me, I think. And then obviously you've got Marco Silva as well, which everyone was dead excited about. He seemed to do well with Watford. He brought Richarlison in, but he's just struggling to find solidity within the team, and it's difficult to see how many times he can continuously do this and then lose or have a terrible result. Because even when we won against Watford in the week, the team by no means played out with the skin. Like, it was still quite bad to watch. So
what is it at the moment? Because I know at Tottenham that problems are evident to see. There are players that are not playing for the shirt. There are players that want to leave, when you look at Danny Rose or Christian Eriksen. But what are the actual problems at Everton? Because you actually had a good summer of signings. You know, like you said, Iwobi, you got Moise Kean, big reputation from Juventus. So what is the actual issues, and how can you actually move forward from this?
I would say, and I've been saying this for a while now with my dad, he's a diehard Everton fan. We personally think the biggest problem for Everton right now is similar to what you just said yourself. It's the players not understanding what they're doing when they're putting on that shirt. They don't get it. You know, clubs like ourselves, Spurs, the Evertons, the Arsenals, the Chelseas, you want your players to know every time they pull that shirt on what they're pulling it on for and what the reputation is that they're doing it for. And I think we've only really got a couple of players in the side right now who I can pick out and I can say he plays for the shirt. Seamus Coleman will be one of them. Plays for the shirt every time he pulls it on. Unfortunately, he's past his best now, so people are starting to get frustrated with him. I think the difficulty of finding the balance, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, as Tottenham have signed quite a lot of exotic players in the last sort of 10 years, is that when you sign these international players and you bring them into our game, you want them to know what they're doing when they're putting on the shirt, but you also want them to be these stars, and that's difficult to find the balance, because we've brought Andre Gomez in, fantastic. I absolutely love him. I think he's a fantastic player. We brought Richarlison in. he's probably the anomaly in the side. He plays for the shirt every time he puts it on. If you watch him, he's always fuming. He's always wanting to get right into it. He plays for the shirt.
It's funny that because he's a Marco Silva player as well.
Yeah, exactly. So he's playing for his manager. But then, you know, we've brought in Iwobi, who had massive talent and potential, I believe. And
Arsenal reject anyway. You know.
Well, listen, come on. I mean, the thing is, you talk about Arsenal rejects, but I mean, my very good mate, Steve, said to me when we signed him, he was talking about him, I said, you know, what's he like? What do you think of him? And he said, he's a brilliant player, he's got loads of ability, but he'll annoy you so much because he won't finish. He won't finish. And if you go back 2 weeks ago and you watch the chance he had right in the middle of the goal with no pressure on him at all, and he hit it straight at the keeper, and I gave him a little text and I went, yeah, you're right. But I think that's a difficulty when you sign all these international players, and you think it's great all at one point, because you go, finally, Everton are finally signing these players from abroad, and you're getting the different nationalities in and a bit of flair. But then these players aren't accustomed to the culture in England and pulling on that shirt and playing for your shirt, so it's difficult to find that balance.
And before the season, you must have been quite hopeful with the signings. You know, I always thought Marco Silva was a good manager. I think he's done well pretty much everywhere he's gone in the Premier League. I think it's a bit of disappointing how he's doing at Everton this season. But your expectations at the beginning of the season to now, have they changed at all, and what are they?
I think they've definitely changed. I think at the beginning of the season, so the culture at Everton is we usually have a horrific start to the season. No matter what manager we've ever had, it doesn't matter who comes in, what signings we make, we're traditionally slow starters, but then we finish the season really strong. And it was a bit of a weird one this year because we didn't have that slow of a start. We got a couple of results and people were feeling a little bit promising. And then after the third, fourth game, something just happened to the players. And it was apparent everywhere that there was something not right in the team. The players weren't putting their effort in. And I think in terms of expectations, you know, you'd love to sit. I sat there at the start of the season and I said, you know, I'd love it if we can get back into the Europa League. People were telling me that Leicester were well better than us and I was telling them they were wrong. But you look at Leicester now, oh my goodness, they seem like they could go for Europe and they're not getting pushed over by anyone. And I think if you look at Leicester's team now, that could be a better team on paper than the league winning side. That's what's crazy about it.
I think it definitely is. Yeah. And I was looking before the season at Leicester's team and I was thinking 6 or 7 or definitely 5 or 6 of those players will walk into our team.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously, they've not got your Mahrez or your Kante, but they haven't had them for 2 years now.
That Tielemans is a baller.
He is a baller. Listen, I remember back when he was 17 and there was this big hype around him.
At Anderlecht, right?
Yeah, at Anderlecht. And then it was rumoured that Everton were going to sign him, and it was between Everton and United. And I was praying to God that we signed him. And he's actually spent quite a while developing the skills, which is quite refreshing to see. This young player, he hasn't gone for the Uniteds or the Chelseas or the Cities or the Barças. He stayed at Monaco for a while and developed the skills, and now he's coming to the Premier League and look at what he's doing week in, week out. Do you know what I mean?
Back on to Marco Silva for a second. Like, if he was to get the sack, who would actually come in, like, to improve things? So I was speaking to the Everton channel and they said David Moyes. They wouldn't mind David Moyes back.
Listen, here's the thing. So the reason that I argued Silva's case before is because the worst thing in the world would be to fall in to becoming a sacking club, where a manager comes in for a year or two and he gets sacked, a year or two they get sacked. You don't want that. You do want some longevity. Here's the reason why I would argue against taking David Moyes back. And there's 2 reasons. One, we already know what he can do and we know where his limit is. The whole reason everyone felt so refreshed at Everton when Moyes left was because we actually knew for 2 or 3 years that he was going to go, and we knew that he was going to be Alex's replacement at United, because I think Ferguson actually made that quite apparent as well. But if Moyes was to come back, here's what I think would happen. I think there'd be like a 3-tier structure. I think at first everyone would be dead happy. David Moyes is back. He's back. You know, the man who took us into Europe and got us to our first Champions League. Then it'd level out a bit because he does have a limit. He does. The only thing I would say could work is that he now has money at his disposal. And if you look at what he did without money, Tim Cahill, Mikel Arteta, Steven Pienaar, Yakubu, players like this came in, Joleon Lescott, Fellaini. These players were all top class players at Everton. So it could be argued that if Moyes comes in, he could do really well. But here's the thing, I don't think it'll be an in-between sort of thing. I think if Moyes comes back, we're setting ourselves up to go, oh my God, this is amazing, we should have got him back earlier, or it's going to go like that. And the only reason I'm a little bit cautious of that is because as he's a bit of a club legend, David Moyes, for what he did for us. We were facing relegation and he dragged us out of it like that as well, and then the year later we finished 4th. I think it'd be a great shame to see him come back and everyone get excited about it and then he loses that status. And I just don't believe in taking a step backwards. I feel like we need to keep trying to move forward now. Do you know what I mean?
I feel that these kind of things never work. You know, Kenny Dalglish going back to Liverpool, Alan Shearer going back to Newcastle, Glenn Hoddle coming to Tottenham. Yeah. These things are always just set up for disaster, aren't they?
I mean, what's funny is the only manager
and Mourinho going back to Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, the only manager who's ever really had great success when going back was Howard Kendall when he went back the second time. But then he came back again and it went to pot. Now, obviously Howard Kendall's a different gravy to David Moyes. He's probably arguably Everton's biggest legend. So he was never going to lose that status. But you're right, when you look at these managers who've done it, I just think you're setting yourself up for a very difficult task, because if you've done well where you've come from, and you have to remember, it's very easy for Moyes to retain that status, because we were relegation ridden, we were battling every year. We went through managers like Mike Walker, Walter Smith, do you know what I mean? Like, Moyes came in, fixed it all, he became a hero. Not only did he fix it, he then stayed for another 10 years, took us to Europe 6 times I think, took us to the Champions League once, you know, we got to quarter-finals, and he gave us that, and that's why I think it'd be a big step for Moyes to take. I think it'd be very humbling for Everton fans if he did, because it means he really does truly love the club.
And also he's been through quite a lot since he left Everton, and he hasn't really had any success kind of whatsoever since he's left Everton.
I mean, that was a little bit, it was sort of, you know, we've got the last laugh when that happened with United. Because listen, Ben, let's not forget when he left, you know, and I was at his last home game. I've still got the videos on my phone, and he was walking around the pitch and we were all singing, you know, the old Moyes chants, and it was just an amazing day, and we felt like we went out on a really good note. We knew he was going to United, but he wasn't going to be that manager who became an idiot. He wasn't going to be that manager who started trying to hijack things. And what's actually funny is, and a lot of people won't know this at home unless you're an Everton fan or a United fan, but when Moyes was an Everton manager, the year before he left, Alex Ferguson came in and tried to buy Leighton Baines for 25 million at the time, and he got told to shove it. It was nowhere near enough, and at the time Baines was arguably one of the best left backs in the world. He was number 1 for England, and there wasn't many people who could touch him in his position. Moyes then went to United and came back and offered us 22 million for both Baines and Marouane Fellaini. Now that, to an Everton fan, is like David Moyes going, bosh, like, I don't care, this is what I'm doing. And he just sort of made a mockery out of us, really. And he did get Fellaini in the end, and we all know what happened to his career. But Baines stayed, and I just, you know, I don't forget things like that. I think it's very difficult to forget things like that. But like I say, it's a big step to take, getting Moyes back. Look, if he does come and we do really well, I'll be eating my words, and I'll come back on here with you and I'll say, there you go, I'm eating my words, Ben. But I think I just don't think it's the right step. I would like to look elsewhere. But going back to your original question of who would you like to see come in, that's the problem, and this is why I don't really want to sack Silva right now, because people are talking about this Mandolino, I think his name is, and he's been sacked more places than Silva has. And I'm thinking that's not really that's not a like for like at all, like, let alone being better. I think the ultimate dream for Everton right now would be if we could turn around and go, Jose Mourinho.
That was my next question. Would you take Jose Mourinho?
Listen, I think you'd be stupid if you wouldn't. And people say to me, what if it's only 3 years? But listen, as a real fan, you've got to understand, we've not won anything in 30 years now. I've seen us get to 2 finals. I've seen us get to semis. I remember the final against Chelsea in 2009. It still haunts me to this day. I remember watching it with my dad. You know, me good mate Louis, he'll be having a laugh about that. You know, Louis Beneventi. But I remember watching the finals thinking, this is it. Louis Saha scored it in 26 seconds, and it was absolutely ecstatic from there. And then, you know, Frank Lampard came and did his thing. It was a foul leading up to that goal, but we'll move swiftly on from that. And I've just seen us get let down every time. So I think as a fan now, the one thing we want to see is some real intent from the club. Now, if Mashiri was able to appoint Mourinho, I think that provides a real statement of intent. We want to see players come in, real marquee signings of players. We've got one of those with Moise Kean. What a signing that was, by the way. What a signing that was.
He hasn't seen too many minutes this season, has he?
He hasn't seen too many minutes, but he's been fighting with a bit of fitness, and he's been fighting with getting up to the pace, and he is only young. Yeah. But every time he's come on, he's ripped the opposition to shreds. You can see the talent there. So I think, you know, if we can get more players in like that, you'd definitely say so. And I think with Mourinho coming in, I think every Everton fan, if you said to us now, you can have 10 years of this continuing, but you'll really have a manager who you know, takes you on a longevity journey, or you can have 3 years with Mourinho and win 2 trophies. You'd be taking the 3 years and 2 trophies all day long.
I think Spurs and Everton are kind of like very similar. Terms of like, you know, not winning much, always dreaming, always getting to a certain stage and not kind of fulfilling their potential.
Those sleepless nights.
I'm
sure you felt some of them.
I felt many of them. And quite a few this season, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But what do you make out of Spurs this season? And, you know, who do you think our biggest threats are in kind of going into this game?
I think, I'll be honest with you, Spurs this season surprised me massively. I think, you know, after you get into the Champions League final, I thought, you know, this is where we could seriously see Spurs start challenging now. And you had a scary side on paper. I'm very surprised Eriksen didn't go. I think that might have been better for you if Eriksen would have gone and you could have got Dybala in. But, you know, sticking to the actual question, I think what I make of Spurs this year is a side that is absolutely full of potential.
Yeah.
Like, Heung-min Son is one of my favourite players. I think he's absolutely incredible. And you have to look at a player like Heung-min Son and wonder, what would he be doing in a Real Madrid side or a Barcelona side? Like, he's a really good player.
Proper player, isn't he?
Proper player, yeah. He's got everything. And Ndombele looks the part to me. I know there was a lot of sort of aura around his name when he first came in, but he seems to have done it every time he stepped on the pitch. It seems really good to me. I mean, George Achille is one of my really good friends, and he was telling me about your backline's aging a little bit, and some of your players are past it.
Yeah.
I think there probably should have been a bit of improvement there.
Definitely.
But I think in terms of your play style, it's just really surprising. Really, really surprising. I honestly thought you might have took the league by storm this year. You know, apart from City and Liverpool, I thought you would have been really up there challenging after the Champions League final. I thought, you know, finally they've got some intent in them, and there's players who really want to play. And then you've started the season, you've had the same problem as us. So it seems, where players just aren't really playing for the shirt. And as far as I can tell, obviously I don't watch Spurs as much as you do, but it seems to me like Harry Kane's the only one who's really playing for that shirt.
I think there are a couple, you know, like you said before, Heung-min Son. I think Lucas Moura, whenever he plays for the shirt. I think
Lucas Moura, I think, is a classic example of getting really unfairly treated. Like, I'm sorry, but
if you score a hat-trick in the semi-final, you've got to start the final,
right.
Surely.
I had this argument with George, actually, and he was saying to me, a half-fit Harry Kane needs to be on that pitch.
I disagree.
And now, I argued that I had the exact same argument as you. I watched that Ajax game, and that was just an unbelievable game to watch, by the way. I'm happy I was alive to see that game.
Best night of my life.
Yeah, I bet it was, yeah.
Oh, but not that I remember.
But yeah, like, to be honest with you, Ben, exactly what you've just said. How can you, it's not even just scoring a hat-trick in the semi-finals, though. It is single-handedly carrying Spurs through on his shoulders, and he's only a little boy, to the biggest game of your whole history.
Yeah.
He's done it on his own, and then Pochettino's gone, sit this one out on the bench for me.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair, mate. I don't think that's fair.
And it's not only just that, but Spurs got history, especially last season before, when Harry Kane doesn't play, we actually score more goals. It's a strange one because our attack looks a lot more fluid, you know.
I remember that actually, because people were saying, "Oh, they've not got Kane now, so that's it, they're done." And you actually performed 4 or 5 really well. Yeah.
And then Harry Kane comes back in, then we struggle to score 1 or 2. It's a difficult one because, you know, Harry Kane, you know, people call him the best striker in Europe.
Yeah.
But
he's definitely up there.
Doesn't always work like that, does it?
No, not always.
Moving on to the game this weekend, how do you think Everton going to set up?
I would love to say that we'll see something that all Everton fans want to see. For about 10 years now we've been calling, please, 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 can we play 2 strikers just for 1 game and see how it goes? And it never happened. It's always... I can probably sit here now and guarantee we'll probably play a 4-2-3-1, but it'll switch into a 3-5. I would hope that we don't make too many changes from the midweek victory against Watford. I would start Mason Holgate. He played and scored his first goal midweek, had to step in, and he did really well. I would be... Silva's the type of manager who would play Yerry Mina, and that's the problem, because Yerry Mina's not fit right now. And Yerry Mina, when he's fit, is actually an amazing centre-half. He scores goals, scores goals, but he's really, really solid at the back. Now, I don't believe in this playing someone who's half fit. I don't believe in that at all. I think we'll probably set up...
It's not just that, it's that when you play someone half fit, what message does it send to the other players?
Well, this is what I'm saying. And it also sends a bad message to the fans. It sends a message like you're not really too bothered. Like, for the fans, we're wanting him to recover and get back to his best. That's what we want.
Yeah.
But the start of the season, you weren't seeing players like Tom Davies, who really should have been getting played more. I think every club needs that homegrown player to knit it all together. I think he probably won't start Moise Kean, but I hope he does. Bernard's out, which is a shame because he's a really good player, a little magician. I think Yerry Mina will be out. Jean-Philippe Gbamin is out anyway. He's out for the season pretty much, which again, just quickly touching on your first question about signings, that's a little bit annoying because we signed him and he was a really good player and then he got injured as soon as he came in, so we've not really seen him yet.
That's happened to all of our signings this season.
So, you know, I think you'll probably see a 4-2-3-1 or maybe a 3 across the midfield. You'll probably see Tom Davies, Andre Gomez and Fabian Delph. Fabian Delph, by the way, I just want to touch on this really quick. When he signed for us, the stick we got for signing him was unreal.
I don't get that because
he's a solid player. When we
he's
signed
a solid
him,
player. He's been in championship winning teams.
Right,
left back.
This is what I'm saying. I was looking at and I was going, how can you give this stick? He's a Premier League winner. He's had caps for England. He's hugely experienced. He's been in a Man City team who arguably were the best team in the Premier League's history.
Coached by Pep the last 3 years.
This is what I mean. He's been coached by Pep the last 3 years. And when he came onto the pitch, and again, touching on conversation with my dad, he said the same thing. He went, you'll see the class in him. Because this is not the Fabian Delph from Aston Villa 8 years ago. People forget this. This is the Fabian Delph who's matured this game. He's now in his prime and he's come from Man City. And he comes on and he's class. Yeah. And he works really well with Andre Gomez. So I think you'll probably see Delph, Gomez, hopefully Tom Davies, and I would hope to see Richarlison on the left, Calvert-Lewin in the middle, and Moise Kean on the right. I would love to see that. I'm not sure he'll play that. He seems to have this thing about playing Richarlison as a striker, and I don't get it because he's not a striker, he's a winger, and he always plays better on the wing. I think in terms of the tactics and stuff, we'll probably take the game to you. We usually do at home. I think you'll probably have to absorb a little bit of pressure.
That usually works in our favour.
Yeah, you can counter-attack.
Yeah, when we play against teams who sit back, that's when we really struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll sit back. I would hope we don't. We kind of broke that duck after Martinez and Koeman, and Silva, brought us into a bit of an attacking scenario, and it was better. So, I just hope he plays his best team. I don't want to see players playing out of position. I don't want to see Tom Davies getting dropped for no reason. I want to see him play because he plays for the shirt, and that's something you can guarantee. He plays for the shirt and he's got good ability. But with what you said about Moise Kean, you're right, he's not been seeing minutes, and it's like, he's got to develop. Sometimes the best way to develop is to give him minutes, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I think, did he play in the Cup in the midweek?
Yeah, the first half, then he got subbed off.
Oh really? Half time?
Which made no sense, and he wasn't injured. I think a prime example is Harry Kane, isn't it? Give him minutes, and he's arguably now the best striker in Europe. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So
I mean, that's what it's about with these young players. You just got to breed them.
It's got to play them.
It's also not about overplaying them as well.
Of
so
course,
you've got to find a fine line.
Yeah, of course.
But finally, score prediction. Bearing in mind we did beat you lot 6-2 up there.
Cheers for that,
season.
mate. Cheers for that. I think score. It's a difficult one, because we're both out of form.
Yeah. We haven't won away since January.
Have you not?
No.
Right. That's just made me really nervous, and I'll tell you why. Do you know, every time the commentators come on and go, say for example, if it's Everton versus United, Everton versus Tottenham, Everton versus Arsenal, whatever, they'll go, oh, they haven't won here at Goodison since, or they haven't won away since, and we're always the one that they break their ducks to.
That's why I feel that Everton and Spurs are both a team like that. People break their ducks against us.
Do you remember when you beat us 1-0 and it was Soldado who scored that goal, and he hadn't scored in 7 months?
The lane, that was at White Hart Lane, right?
No, it was at Goodison.
Oh, was that Goodison?
Yeah, and he hadn't scored in ages, and he came and just banged them in against us, and I was like, I wish you wouldn't say this, because we are the team that he will break the duck to.
Well, you never know, you might be 1-0 Moose's this weekend.
Listen, I think score prediction, a little bit biased because I'm the Everton fan here. I'll go 3-1 to Everton.
Well, you're coming on this channel and saying 3-1 to Everton. Brave boy.
I'll go 3-1 Everton, and I think Richarlison will get 2.
Really? I'm going 2-1 Spurs.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to...
I think you'll bottle it?
Probably. I'm not going to lie, probably. We bottle everything these days. I think it's going to be a very tight game. I think two teams with not a lot of confidence whatsoever.
Not at all.
I don't think it's going to be like a spectacle or like very good for the neutral or anything like that. But I think once the two teams get into it, I think it could turn into
a good game. Yeah.
Could turn into a good game. But I think it's going to be a slow start.
I think you're right in what you're saying there, because it's sort of like two beasts sort of going, should I or shouldn't I?
Exactly.
There's no confidence there at all. So, I think for a neutral, the lineup is good. Everton versus Spurs, it's two very big clubs, two of the biggest clubs in the Premier League.
It's usually a good game between Everton
It's always a good game. The thing I like about our games as well is it's usually fairly clean with our games. There's not usually much cheating going on, stuff like that. I think we're both very honest clubs. Some clubs like to cheat quite a bit, but we'll leave names unmentioned.
We'll name him Sadio Mane.
But yeah, so I think it'll be a good game when we get into it a bit. But I just hope Goodison's rocking, because usually if Goodison's rocking, people don't want to come and play there.
So one thing I like about Goodison, it gives me a bit of a feel like White Hart Lane used to have. That old school,
old-fashioned, close to the pitch.
It's going to be a shame for you when you move out of Goodison.
This is the thing, obviously, as a brand portrayal sort of thing, the brand resonance is going to improve massively when we get this new stadium. Because it's going to be really good, really be able to get our own train station for it underground and everything. The Reds will be fuming, they'll all be jealous. But at the same time, I get what you're saying. I love the fact that Goodison, you're on top of the players. You know what I mean? Every time that winger's up and down that line, they can hear exactly what you're saying. Exactly. And that's the proper old-fashioned football feel. And I'm not into all this far away from the pitch. Like West Ham, that is my least favourite stadium.
Oh, it's awful. It's
ever
awful.
been to. I mean, it smells horrible.
If you're in
first of all, it stinks. And you need to take binoculars when you sit from the stands. You're so far away. I don't understand how you can enjoy that. There's no atmosphere in there. But that's what White Hart Lane and Goodison always brought, the atmosphere. And Goodison's fell off a bit, Ben, to be fair. It's quite sad.
I don't think it's just Goodison. I think it's just the state of the English game at the moment.
I think so as well. I think so.
But, it is what it is. I think if we can just get any sort of 3 points this weekend, I think it's a massive game for both of us.
Definitely, yeah. This could be Silver's last game.
If you lose.
This could be, but
it could save his job as well if he wins.
Exactly, this is what I mean, and this is why it's a bit difficult, because as a fan, I'm not sure which one I want to happen, do you know what I mean? But I think if we were to lose, for example, 2-1 or 3-2, but you could see the intent from the players all day long. Like when we beat, the last league game, where we ended up winning, I think it was West Ham 2-0. There was something completely different in that game. Every player was playing for silver, and you could see it. There was so much intent. And everyone was finally like, okay, we're going to give him a chance, because the players have not lost him yet, and he's not lost the players. There's clearly something there that makes these players want to play for him when they get the tactics right. So I think if you come to Goodison and you smash us off the park, and there's no intent, and the fans are getting aerated because there's no effort from the players, I think that could just be where Mashiri and Kenwright go, right, that's it now, we've had enough. But this could also be the kickstart and the catalyst to getting the team to its best. You know, Silva might need some bad press. You never know. Some people act better under pressure. Ferguson always did. He loved the pressure. He used to prove everyone wrong. Used to win and win and win and win again. So I just, you know, you never know what's going to happen, but it's definitely going to be a good game. Definitely going to be a good game. So I'm quite excited to see what happens.
I agree. So it's going to be a long trip up to Merseyside for the second time in a week. I'm sick of that place already. I really am. Like, how many times can we go up? But anyway, Spurs, Everton up at Goodison this weekend. Matty's going 3-1 to Everton. I'm going 2-1 Spurs. As long as Theo Walcott doesn't score, to be honest, I think we'll be all right. Like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you think the score is going to be. And as always, come on you Spurs.